Welcome to the University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. I am Sharinda, your host, and I am very happy to be with a special guest today on set, Miss Mattison Thompson. Hi. Hello, welcome to the set. Welcome to the University of Findlay.
Thank you so much.
Mattison comes from Orlando, Florida, and I have the honor of meeting many entertainers, and Mattison is special because we've been friends for quite a few years, and I have learned a lot from Mattison over the years, and she's going to be demonstrating some of her skills a little bit later in the show, hence the reason why we have some really neat gadgets and things on the table here. And if you don't mind, I'm going to do, nope, that's not gonna, that is really bright. So the light is shining, there we go. So live television right there. But you are an entertainer in many different areas of the world of entertainment. And a lot of people know you as a makeup artist.
Yes.
And that is what you do on a daily basis. But you started your career in the world of entertainment very young.
Oh, yeah.
And people are thinking you are very young, which you are,
Yeah.
but you were one of those that was fortunate enough to be able to be the child and be in modeling. And so tell us about that, because you started out about 10 years old.
8.
8?
Yeah,
Okay.
8
okay.
years old. I impersonated Cindy Lou Who from How the Grinch Stole Christmas, so I'd get booked out at different holiday parties and events to do meet and greet. Also, let's see, I did do modeling. I was in a Disney brochure for their cruise line. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you got to swim and play in a pool.
Yeah, on Disney property.
Yeah, and then look really happy doing it, which there's not a problem doing that at Disney, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And then later on in life, you had the opportunity to audition to work at Orlando's Universal Studios.
Yep.
And so was that something that you were interested in getting into? Had you been in the world of auditions at the different theme parks? Or did you just wake up one morning and go, I've done the modeling, I've done Cindy Lou Who, I'm gonna be a star at Universal Studios? How did that work for you?
So I always wanted to work at the theme parks as an entertainer, and I had gone to a couple of Disney auditions but didn't really get anywhere with that. And one day a friend of mine told me that Universal was holding auditions for the role of Marilyn Monroe. And he said, you need to audition. And I was like, me, Marilyn? No, you're funny. He said, no, just send in your headshot, because that's all that they were asking for, is for people to send in their headshots. And out of 300 headshots, they only picked out about 30 girls, and I was one of those 30.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Because you were 17 and a half at this time, or real close to 18?
I was
okay.
18.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they brought me in for the audition, and I did my monologue. I did a little bit of a song that they wanted me to do, and they kept me and one other girl. And me and that other girl ended up getting the roles, which I was astounded by, because I no way thought that I could pull off the character. But now I really feel like I've grown into the character, and I'm quite protective over Marilyn as a personality, you know?
Sure. And as many wonderful actors and actresses do, you're being very humble when you say you didn't really think that you could truly portray it. You're a seasoned actress, and you were at that time, and obviously they saw that. And I love the fact that you have grown into and own and have gotten to know Marilyn very well, because you did a lot of research. And you did the voice lessons, and you did a lot to prepare for that. And I love the fact that that was 5 years ago? 4 years ago?
4,
yeah. And so in that 4-year time, you're still in an opportune role with everything else you're doing to be able to go back and be Marilyn.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really special because a lot of people, they don't have that opportunity when you get into the world of the theme parks. People come and go really fast. So that's a huge compliment to you also, that you are still there, staying power, keeping Maryland alive.
Yes.
So you mentioned that 2 people were cast when you were auditioning. Will you please explain that to the audience? Because I know a lot of people go to these parks and they're looking to see Minnie, and they see her one place, they go 3 blocks away and they see Minnie again, and they're like, how'd she get there so fast? And I know that with Universal Orlando, Marilyn can be seen dancing in the street with the backup women behind her, and then you go down another part of the park and all of a sudden Marilyn's there doing meet and greets. So how does that work?
So we hire, or the company hires multiple people to play different characters. That way it's easier to get around, and you don't have to worry about, this person needs to be here, but they also need to be there. It's a little secret, but.
And so with that, I've heard people talking in the parks, and they'll be like, well, that's got to be an easy job. She just has to be one place, and it's a show, and then she's gone, and then there's a show. But it's not as easy as Universal makes it look. There's a little bit more to it, correct?
Yeah, try dancing in multiple layer costumes in a heat index of 109 with pounds of makeup on your face,
and
in
humidity.
a wig, and humidity, keeping a smile on your face. While also getting sunburned.
Yes.
It's a lot of work.
And in character, so you do 6 shows within a shift?
Yes.
And it's like on the top of the hour, and it's a 10-minute show.
It changes day to day.
So, but the whole point is you get yourself psyched up to do it in the morning, and then you still have to do it 5 more times, and the people have to see that same brand new, fresh, ready to go character.
Yeah, it's especially hard after lunch if you've had a really big meal. You're just like, I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, it's a lot of fun though. Yeah. I very much enjoy it. You meet a lot of really fun people.
And there are some really special people that are little ones that are watching you, that they come specifically to see Marilyn, as Marilyn, and I think that's really special that you've been able to build relationships with those little ladies, and they're following and you're inspiring them, and that's so cool.
There's this one little girl I met, and she is just so sweet, and the first time I met her, she came up to me and she said, I have a present for you, and I was like, you have a present for me? What? And she gave me, it was a little plastic diamond ring, and her dad said, I don't know why she loves Marilyn so much. I don't know what has attracted her to you. But she saw a picture of Marilyn at a Walmart and was like, oh. And so we took her to Universal, and you were here, and so she said that she had to bring you a present.
That's awesome. Yeah. And she's brought you a couple other gifts over the years, correct?
Not
Or is
her.
That some other little girls? I know you get gifts that you post online,
sometimes,
social media.
Yeah, but she does come to visit Marilyn a lot in the parks.
That's very cool. So in addition to working Universal Studio, you also are an aerial artist.
Yes.
Will you explain what aerial art is? It's becoming more known outside of the entertainment industry, but a lot of people still are not sure what it is. If they go to a circus, they see trapeze artists, so then they think that's all there is to it. But what is aerial art?
Aerial acrobatics, aerial art is acrobatics that you do in the air. So on silks, some people call them curtains, and they're those pieces of fabric that drape down from the ceiling. There's also lyra. It's essentially a giant hoop in the middle of the air that you have to contort your body around. And so there are a lot of other things too. There's straps, and they're literally straps hanging from the ceiling. There's chains. I know some people, and they do all the same things that they do with silks, but with metal chains.
Ugh, that hurts me thinking about it. Rolling up in the chains to the top of the ceiling to drop down. No. Yeah,
so that's a lot of fun. The the only sport that I've really stuck with. It is starting to get a little bit more mainstream, and I think that's really cool that it's being brought out more into the public. You do have to be very careful about the places that you go, though. I know that of a couple of dance studios who haven't had trained professionals teaching their kids. So you want to do research into wherever you go. Make sure that they're professionals, that they've been doing it for a very long time. They're taking the correct safety precautions, because it is a dangerous sport.
And that's wonderful words, because I wouldn't have ever thought of that. I would have just assumed if the sign's out, then that means they're accredited or they've done what they need to do. So thank you for reminding us that we always need to do our research.
Oh, yeah.
And so with that, you're able to still create characters, correct? So for your routines within the classes that you do, and then with the performance you do, you're able to create characters and costuming.
Yeah.
So it's not just,
Yeah.
I'm in a hoop. There's actually themes to it. Could you describe a little bit of that?
Yeah, I did a Harley Quinn lyra routine, because in the Batman comics, Harley Quinn is an aerial acrobat. And so I did a lyra burlesque routine as Harley Quinn to one of the songs from Suicide Squad. That's kind of her anthem, called "You Don't Own Me." But it was a modern version of it, not the original.
Yeah, I've heard the version you're talking about, and it's really good, and it'd be perfect for that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. And so let's segue into burlesque.
Yes.
So many people hear burlesque and they think dirty word. They think this is not, but it's an art form.
It is an art form.
And so will you tell us a little bit about your experience within that art form?
Yeah, so burlesque is a niche performance, and it is, what's the word? It does, how do I say this? My friends, burlesque, it's a way to express yourself. It's a way to build up your confidence. It's about body positivity. It's about loving yourself, and people are like, oh, if you do burlesque, you don't respect yourself. No, if you do burlesque, you do respect yourself, in a sense. You respect yourself enough to be able to showcase what your body can do, what you can do.
Because there's a lot of, each person is an individual,
Yeah.
So it depends on who they are, their comfort zone within the routines they do. But there is opportunity for acrobatics, comedy,
Singing.
Yes.
Yeah, there's...
And it doesn't mean you're taking off all your clothes. So many people think that burlesque is just striptease, and that is not all that there is to burlesque.
My friends call it polite stripping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, yes, you are taking off your clothes.
But you're not getting totally nude.
And not that there's anything necessarily wrong with it. It's just, it's a different art form.
Yeah.
And it's an old art form.
Exactly.
It's been around for centuries.
And it's reviving.
Part of vaudeville. Yeah.
Yes, and it is reviving. It's been, I think that they said that we started hearing about it reviving in about the late 80s, early 90s. They started doing more interviews with people because the clubs were starting to open back up in New York City, out in LA, and it's just caught on, and it's in a lot of fringe festivals.
Yeah, I think that when people hear the word stripping or hear the word burlesque, it brings a lot of negative connotation to it. And that's why I was hesitant to say polite stripping, because people hear that word and immediately their brains turn off. And it's so much more than that.
Exactly.
I know so many people who have said that getting into burlesque and being able to express themselves in that way it's completely changed the way they thought about themselves, their abilities. Some people have said it's helped them with addiction.
Confidence booster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the other artists that I know, they've told me the same thing. They've said, because of where life had me, and then being introduced to this art where I am now. I've come so far with their journey, and it's helped them be able to discover things they never would have given themselves permission to even try, and it's a successful story. So yeah,
the human body is not dirty, the human body is beautiful.
Exactly. So with that, there is makeup. And we had mentioned earlier that that is your love, your passion, and your profession.
Yes.
And you currently are working for MAC?
Yes, MAC Pro at the Mall of Millennia in Orlando, Florida. We are one of 2 MAC Pro stores in the south of the U.S.
So when you say in the south, so is that like Atlanta, Georgia down, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And so within that, you are able to help women and men with contouring and learning how to apply makeup. But then you also have the gift of being able to do stage makeup for both theater, television, movie, and then you do horror film or horror type special effects makeups. And so you have a palette here of fun little things.
Some goodies.
Yeah, and so before I have agreed to be a guinea pig so that she can demonstrate some of her fine skills. But before we get to that, what got you interested in makeup? Because not every girl likes makeup.
I've always been a makeup girl. There's a picture of me when I was like 2 years old getting into my mom's makeup bag and smearing purple lipstick all over my face. And growing up, I always wanted to do my mom's makeup. I always wanted to do my friends' makeup. I was the makeup girl at sleepovers. When I was in theater, I was the girl that everyone came running up to do their eyeliner, put their eyelashes on. And in a way, it was an escape for me because I struggled with really bad anxiety and OCD and depression when I was in middle school. And one way that I would get through it if I felt a panic attack or something like that coming on, if I felt myself spiraling, was I'd sit in front of the mirror and I'd just do my makeup.
Cool. And you self-discovered characters and different places you could go with makeup.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And so some of those characters have actually become part of your repertoire because you also work in the world of acting in impersonation.
Yes.
And so could you tell us a little bit about some of those characters? Because it's quite the wide range. You first started out with Anne Margaret, correct?
Yes.
After you got through the Cindy Lou Who and you got a little older, that was one of the ones that she was a fascination for you.
Okay, yeah.
And so I think we have pictures of still shots of Mattison that we're going to be showing while we're talking here. So Anne Margaret, what got your attention? Because for Anne, that character, because she's considered a classic, but so many people, like I had to go looking for her, and I'm quite a bit older than you, and I fell in love with her too. So what was it that got your attention about her, that you really wanted to study her and you wanted to positively represent her and celebrate who she was in the earlier years, because she's still performing, she's still around, but people don't realize what she did early on. They recognize her now. So
yeah, well, my parents started saying that I kind of looked like her when I dyed my hair red, and that kind of got me thinking, well, maybe she's someone that I can impersonate. And I started looking her up, looking at her movies and the music that she has done. And I really felt a connection with her. She has a very bubbly, kind of free spirit sort of feel about her. And I consider myself to be in that same boat of personality. So I thought it wouldn't be too big of a stretch, plus I already have the red hair. And I started studying her, and I saw that she was she did a lot of stuff with Elvis, or that she's frequently thought of being with Elvis because of her role in Viva Las Vegas. So I started talking to some Elvis impersonators to to get their thoughts on it, and all of them were like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have an Anne Margaret to perform with. And it just kind of took off from there.
Awesome. And so then you started identifying other characters that were of interest to you and started adding them to your resume also. And this is where you truly are an actress. Unfortunately, so many people think that the world of impersonation isn't the same as acting, and it is. You do the background, the history. I know you take voice lessons, and you've taken dance and different things so that you can truly represent the artist that you are representing. That's acting.
You have to, a lot of research goes into celebrity impersonation because you have no idea
if
how
it's
many
done
people,
right.
People will come up to you and they'll try to test you. They'll try to trip you up. And we don't like it when people do that. Just like if you're going to meet a celebrity impersonator, please don't do that. It's very exhausting. But we probably will know what you're talking about.
Because you are becoming that character. And that's, in the world of theater, that's what you do. You have to study and become that character. So Amy Winehouse. Huge difference from Anne Margaret.
And Marilyn, That's where my makeup skills come in with contouring and sometimes I'll use nose wax actually to kind of build my nose to look more like hers. You can really change the bone structure of a person's face with the right tools and the right products.
And then from there we go to Roger Rabbit, right? And
Jessica
it was Jessica Rabbit. Yes.
Yeah, I love doing Jessica Rabbit. I've always loved Jessica Rabbit ever since I was little.
Yeah, and then let's see, who else do I remember seeing you as? Jackie Onassis, Jackie O. Kennedy. So again, totally different from the others. And then I think I've seen you as a Cindy Lou Who a little older too, right? In
Martha May Whovier.
That's who it was. Okay,
yeah, Martha
all right.
May Whovier.
So there is quite a gamut there of women and characters that you have mastered, and that's so cool. So we have seen the pictures of you as those characters, and I think we've seen some pictures of you doing some of your aerial art also. We won't be dropping anything down from the scaffolding for you to be performing that today, but I am thankful that you were able to bring in some of your special effects makeup here, and I think that you're going to make me look up here to be injured on my arm.
Yes, we're going to give you a nice, good old-fashioned gash.
Great. The kind I won't worry about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a couple minutes to get set up here.
Yeah.
So, the silver thing that at the beginning of the interview was blinding me, that actually is considered kind of a palette, correct? You work from that?
Yeah.
So this gash that you have begun to create on my arm, what did you do with your palette before you started applying it to my arm?
So first I wiped it down with a sanitary wipe.
Okay.
And then I took my 2-part silicone compound called Third Degree Makeup, and I mixed the two together on the palette because you don't want to mix them inside the jars. They will cure together and you won't be able to open the jar, which is kind of important.
Yeah.
But what this does is you can use it to create gashes, you can use it to create disfigurements, wounds, boils, blisters, even prosthetics.
Okay. Well, and I know that while you've been visiting our campus, you also met with our theater department and did a special effects and glam makeup class, a master class for them. And so while you're working on destroying my arm, I want to talk about the glam part a little bit. Because we were talking earlier about burlesque and understanding the art form, but another word that's used a lot is the word drag in the makeup world. And so the definition of drag has expanded. And I was wondering if you could touch on that a little bit. Explain what does drag mean and what does that look like? And because part of the discussion that we got into with the masterclass was even the fact that sometimes people think drag and they think men dressing up as women and then overdoing the makeup and just not overdoing, but accentuating and really making it big and bold. And through that conversation, some other things came out. So would you talk about that again, please?
Totally. So when people think of drag, they assume the original sort of definition of it, which is the over-exaggeration of femininity, specifically on men, make them look feminine, make them look like women. However, over the years, as drag has gotten more popular, it's kind of just been created as a way to, it's kind of all-encompassing. It's an exaggeration of everything. It's an exaggeration of, for example, there's like monster drag. Mm-hmm. So it's glamorous, but also very gory. Or very scary. There's, what else is there? There's so many aspects of drag.
Well, and one of the things that came up earlier today was that women are now welcomed into the world of drag as women being women in drag, and then women dressing up as men in drag.
Drag kings.
Drag kings, yes. And
there's drag queens, drag kings, drag. So yeah, women have kind of started to enter the world of drag. Actually, women have always kind of been there. It's just now that they're just now starting to get some spotlight, and everyone in between too. You don't have to
identify
you can identify pretty much as anything and still do drag. It's a performance. It's an over-exaggeration of a specific aesthetic.
I thank you for explaining that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to go back to this special effect on my arm, because while we're chatting, you had stopped and were explaining, but you were actually doing that on purpose also.
Yes.
So what's going on down here?
I am waiting for the silicone to cure. Curing means it's starting to solidify into its final form.
And you were doing something with your spatula where you were thinning it out on the edges, and now you're going back and kind of, I'm not going to say it as eloquently as you would, piling it up is what it looks like to me. But you were actually doing that for effect, correct?
Yeah, so smoothing it out into the skin makes it look like it's coming out of the skin as opposed to just something sitting on top of the skin. But then the inside of the wound, that's where we want the separation to be. That's where we want it to look like your skin's peeling
happening.
off. Yeah. So the inside can be a little bit more jagged. It can be more ripped up because that's what it is. It's supposed to be ripped up skin.
So the special effect, the illusion, is instead of it being just blopped on there, that it looks like it's actually become an injury.
Yes, and I'm just going to wait a little bit longer for that to cure. It takes a few minutes.
Sure. And so while we're talking about that, with this type of special effect on stage, in movies, is this kind of what we're seeing on all of the doctor shows, the medical shows, or the shows where there's been an accident and they're pulling them out? Is this kind of that look that you're going for?
Oh, yeah.
This isn't just for theater.
Yeah, special effects have been used in movies and television since like the beginning of movies and television. I mean, look at Frankenstein, the original, the Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney actually would take fishing wire for his Phantom of the Opera makeup, and he would tape it into his nostrils and pull it up so it gave him that pig nose effect.
How painful.
Special effects makeup can be painful.
Yeah.
It takes a really strong person to be able to wear that makeup and be able to emote and get across the body language. That's why a lot of movies nowadays use CGI. I still prefer, I think it's really great when there's a mixture of CGI and special effects though, because that's when I feel you get the most realistic.
And could you explain for our viewing audience what CGI is?
CGI is computer generated imagery.
Okay.
So what you see in like Game of Thrones, the dragons, that would be CGI.
Okay.
Yeah, or if you're talking about modern horror movies, if you see a really extreme effect where someone is getting very mutilated, that very well could be CGI.
Okay. But sometimes they blend it where they're still using effects on people, and then we'll do a portion of that recorded and then simulate or do CGI over it.
Yeah, the best example of that I can think of right now would be the most recent version of The Wolfman that was done a few years ago, because they did use a lot of special effects makeup with prosthetics and bodysuits, but they also took scans of the actor.
Oh, wow.
And then on their computer, they were able to morph and change his face to get across certain effects that wouldn't quite translate as well with physical effects.
Interesting.
Or practical effects.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm just doing more scraping.
And is it more because we are under the lights for the taping, or does a little heat come from the product that you're using on the skin? Because it feels warm.
Feels warm?
Yeah.
It's probably from
The heat?
Yeah.
It feels good. But I'm like,
because
I want
it
more.
is a chemical reaction, there probably is some heat coming from it.
Okay, cool. So, with the special effects, there are, ooh, it is starting to firm up now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Is your favorite to work with the blood and the guts, or do you also like to do the glam, or is it all your favorite?
I like to do theatrical makeup the most and gore makeup. That's why I love doing the master class earlier, because I did a little bit of both. There's actually a YouTuber called Glam and Gore, and her makeup videos are really cool because she does do a mixture of glam makeup and gore makeup.
But you're not doing that at the Mac 2 store, correct?
Not all the time, sometimes.
Yeah? People
Yeah.
come in and say, will you help me do this?
Halloween, yeah.
Really? That's cool.
People come in and will ask for specific things. Now, being at the Mac store, I do have to use what they
Their
have
product.
there. So I'm not always able to, like, for example, use something like this.
Sure.
But you can get across very realistic looking wounds just using body paint.
Well, and something that you had talked about at the master class was using eyeshadow and creams, cream foundations, and applying it specific ways to just shadow and contour to get effects.
Yeah, yes. So you want to take the darker colors, and which I'll show in a little bit after this cures completely, but you would put them almost underneath where the prosthetic is and then blend them inwards. It's going to give it a more 3D effect.
So you picked up a sponge while we were chatting about the
Yes.
other. Tell us about that sponge. What were you doing with that for this effect?
This is a stippling sponge. It has a lot of holes on it. It's
And is
very
that what
textured.
stippling means?
Stippling means like, it's like a
Sponge
fancy
painting.
word for dabbing. Yeah.
Okay.
And what it does is adds texture to whatever product you're working with.
So it makes it look more like skin texture.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Because this stuff will dry completely smooth.
And I was thinking that it would start pulling on my skin, and it's not doing that either. Because you think of Elmer's glue as a kid, and how you layered it on, and that your skin would get tight, and you pull it off and go, ooh, it's my skin.
Yeah.
But it's not doing that.
Yeah.
Now, how would one remove this special effect?
There's a few, it depends on the product that you use. Pretty much any oil-based cleanser will get off the majority of makeup. If you're using an alcohol-based paint, then only alcohol will remove it. But if you're doing something like this, what you would want to do is take your oil-based remover and gently peel up a little part of the prosthetic. Take a brush, dip it in the oil, and just kind of work it underneath the prosthetic until it comes all the way off.
So it is easy to remove.
Yes.
And something that you'd mentioned before, and I thought this was fascinating, because, and I've been in some of your makeup classes at other times over the years that are fascinating, because one of the things that you stress over and over is the importance of cleaning brushes. And people just don't get that.
Yeah.
And there are reasons why.
Yes.
And there are really good ways to clean your brushes, and then there's ways you think are good, but you're actually setting yourself up for potential danger. And you touched on that with alcohol. Could you explain that why not all alcohol is good for cleaning?
Yeah, so for example, this is 99% alcohol. This is used a lot in special effects makeup. It's used for alcohol-based paints. It's used to help thin out silicone prosthetics. But you don't want to use 99%. Really anything over or under 70%. If you use anything over 70% alcohol, it doesn't actually kill the bacteria. It freezes the bacteria.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
No. So the bacteria is still alive, it's just paralyzed.
Okay.
So it can't reproduce.
But it's still gunking stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff can build on top of that, feed off of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 70% alcohol will actually kill the bacteria. If I don't necessarily recommend using alcohol to clean your brushes, though.
Okay.
You can use it to clean your products, like cream-based products. If you're using them on multiple people, put a little bit on a paper towel and wipe down your makeup with it.
And you don't scoop all your makeup off? I'd think that would remove all the makeup from the palette.
It will remove some makeup, but it's the cost of being a makeup artist and cleaning your products so you don't infect people. Cleaning your brushes, you want to use either baby shampoo. I like to use dishwashing soap because dishwashing soap, if it's good enough to get grease off pans or oil off of baby ducks,
yes.
It's good enough to get makeup off of brushes and gentle enough too. So I'll use that. If I have these are synthetic fiber brushes, which means the little hairs are made out of plastic.
Okay.
They're still very soft. They're just plastic. I will just let them dry. If they are made out of real hair, real animal hair, I will add aloe vera. I'll take plain aloe vera gel and pump it into my hand and reshape the bristles, and it will help to condition the bristles and it will help keep the shape. And when it completely dries, you just kind of flick the end of the brush and it will break the aloe vera gel cast.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll
Very
be nice
cool.
and fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. How we doing here?
We're doing good. I can probably start painting that. Well, first I'm going to powder this one.
And what does the powder do?
The powder just helps to remove any shine.
Okay.
And if you're in a pinch, it can potentially help make the product dry a little bit faster.
Okay.
At least the outer layer.
Yeah, it definitely took the shine away.
Yeah. So now I'm going to find a foundation color that matches your arm.
Okay. And so for the foundations and the painting, you are using MAC product today, correct?
Yes. So let's see.
That was the one I guessed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to use a mixture of a few on you because, you know, people don't have...
One exact color. My mom taught me that when I was growing up, the importance of blending your base.
Undertones are very important when it comes to finding your base color too. Do you tend to be more on the pink side? Do you tend to be more on the yellow side?
I'd like to say I'm a pink person.
Or do you have a mixture of yellow and pink in your skin. I vary on the yellow and pink side. I have pink undertones, but then certain areas of my skin tend to be more yellow as well.
And honestly, I think that's the way I am too, because
Yeah.
my cheeks will be pink, but
The rest of your skin's more olive.
at the temple and at the forehead, I will sometimes be I can see the more yellow look.
Definitely. So now I'm going in, this is the Krylon Bruise Wheel. This is my favorite thing to use to make wounds.
And will you show that to that camera right there, because that is very interesting. I didn't know that existed.
Color wheels?
No, the Bruise Wheel.
Oh, the Bruise. They have a monster wheel, they have a Bruise wheel, they have a clown wheel.
And so can you get that product online? Because
Yeah.
communities our size don't have special effects stores.
You can get some of this stuff off of Amazon.com, but there's also a website called FX Warehouse, and they have pretty much any and all special effects makeup that you can think of to buy, and you don't need a license to get it.
Okay. And you've used their products, it's trustable?
Yes, yeah. They have everything from Krylon to Ben Nye to brands you probably haven't even heard about, but are
The two you've mentioned I haven't heard about. It's not my world. I'm learning so much today.
And now I'm going to take a slightly smaller brush and go into this yellow and start adding that in the middle. It's going to give it more of a tissue, muscle-y sort of look.
I would say pussy look.
Or yeah, that
It's
too.
not a very nice word to be using on camera probably, but
Using smaller brushes when you're creating wounds like this are very helpful because it can really get into those little
gashes, yeah, the grooves.
Exactly.
It's really making it look realistic.
And I'm using kind of inward strokes. Inward
So
and
that
upward.
so that it goes with the view of the injury, as the injury would really look.
Yes. And then I'm going to take the slightly fluffier brush, kind of dab it in the red, wipe it off on the side.
Yeah, it looks like there's not a whole bunch of red going on there. It's very light.
Yeah, because we're just going to make the skin look very irritated. Yeah.
So you're doing this for special effects with makeup, but this could be a fun science project for someone also who's interested in special effects, because you're using different materials, you've got the drying time, you've got blending, so it could be a great show and tell project for classes also.
Yeah.
Because so many times people think you're only going to do this for theater, you're only going to do this for the arts, but there's a lot that can be done with special effects makeup.
Don't be afraid to use your fingers.
I was so glad to hear you say that. And you know, a friend of mine's a professional photographer, and he told me when I'm blending, always use my ring finger on my face, because it's the least pressured finger. And so it's the best for blending and doing the upward strokes, because you're not working against your skin where you put more pressure with your
Especially
middle
on the
or
eyes.
index. Yeah.
Speaking of the frequency of washing your brushes, I recommend washing them once every 2 weeks.
And speaking of makeup again, even though we've been talking about the special effect, I want to go back to Mac Pro, because you actually went to college. You fell in love with makeup, but then you actually went to school to get licensed as an esthetician, correct?
Yes.
And so, was that Aveda or Aveda? Am I saying that correctly?
Aveda, yes.
Okay. And so there are schools, I know there's schools in Orlando, Los Angeles, New York, and you chose to do the one there in Florida. How long was that process, that school process?
It was a 6-month process, 6 months of schooling.
And then do you take tests, like, do they test you on your skill set to help with licensure?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We actually were fortunate enough to have a spa at the school.
Oh, cool.
So
you could get practice hours.
Yeah. So we practiced on people who would come in. And they all knew that we were students.
Sure,
They actually had to sign a waiver.
Sure.
Not that anything happened.
All schools do that.
Yeah.
But that's neat that you had that experience with all different types and ages of faces, too.
Yeah. I think that really helped with me doing makeup, learning about skin, because I can look at someone's skin and say, like when I'm working at MAC, oh, this product will work for you. This product probably isn't the best. And that's part of being a good salesperson and a good makeup artist, is knowing what works for your guest or your client. Because you don't want them to go home and be upset with whatever they take home.
Sure.
For me, it's never about making the sale. It's about making the person happy.
Well, and then that goes back to the special effects in the theater. Even though you're doing this on me, you were studying my arm before you started, which let me know that you were checking the skin, the pores, all that fun stuff. And I know that off camera, you had asked what if any allergies I had.
Yeah.
So safety first.
Yep.
Which is great. And the other thing that's really cool about special effects is it's never perfect, because the perfection is in the imperfection of it. So working on trying to get it just right, it can be just right now, or it can be just right in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's blending and organizing.
Yeah. I always say that makeup has to look bad and messy before it starts looking good and pretty. Or it has to start looking bad and messy before it starts looking really bad and really messy. If that's what you're going for.
Yeah. I think I'm going to change my clothes and go out to dinner tonight and see how many people will notice my injury.
So there's like just kind of a simple little gash. The blood I used is scab blood by Ben Nye. It's easier to use than liquid blood because you're able to
control it, and it
it's more of a
dries.
gel.
Yeah.
It doesn't dry.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you for taking time to come to campus and teach a master class, and then come in and talk to us about all the wonderful things you are doing in the world of art and culture.
Thank you.
And I know you are making a difference in many people's lives. If it's not being an inspiration through a character, it's through makeup, and it's also the support you provide others in the industry as they are learning their skills, and also encouraging others who are thinking about getting into different parts of the industry. You are a very amazing, talented, gifted woman, and I am always excited to be able to introduce talent such as what you possess to our viewing audience. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And I look forward to continuing to watch you as you grow and succeed in all your endeavors. And I want to thank you for joining us today for this very special episode of the Art and Culture Show. Until the next time, be well.